Hi, sixth grade. It's Emily, your art teacher. I miss you all so much. And I know art is not going to be the way it normally is this year. And I know you all so well, after teaching you for these couple of years. So I know how much you love art as a class. And I want you to know that I'm thinking about you and that I really, truly believe that even though it's going to be different, we can be super creative and super connected in that art way, even in this kind of teaching. So I'm thinking about it. I'm working really hard, and I hope that you'll have hope too in your hearts that this can work. I wanted to let you know how art is going to work a little bit this year. So for this fall at least, for the first couple of weeks, you'll have art through a video, an asynchronous recording. So like this, where I'll record my lesson and I'll put it in your Google Classroom under art. So you can access it there and find me there. You'll also be able to find a Bitmoji classroom for art. It's actually my kind of art website. And I don't know if I'm actually going to have a Bitmoji of me in it, but it's a little pretend art classroom. And what I did is I found all these cool ways for you to explore art on your own using my little pretend classroom. So if you go into it and you get your cursor on all the little areas in the classroom, you'll see that it will take you places. So I have some artwork hanging on the wall, and if you click on it, you'll learn about the artist and the artwork, and it's art that I think you'll really think is cool. So check it out. I also have like a explore art at the top of the classroom, or the top of the website. It says art explorations. I think that's what it says. Anyway, if you click there, you know what I did? I have virtual tours listed of all these different museums, not only across the country, but across the world. I think there's one, I linked to one in Paris, the Musée d'Orsay, which is one of my favorite museums. I actually went there when I was I think I was 22. I went and visited it, and it was like a life-changing experience for me. So you can see the art there if you follow the link. I think there's a museum in Korea. I have museums in California on there. So New York City, all sorts, and Boston, our own state's museum. So I don't know. I think you'll have a lot of fun doing that, like clicking through and taking those tours. You don't have to do it all at once. The point is you can just keep revisiting and kind of checking out all of that cool art and all the cool museums. You'll also see that I have some other stuff on there, like some books that you can click to and check those out. So let me know what you think. Oh, last thing, I have a Swift River School Art Gallery link on there. So as you send me art, I'm going to post it in the gallery. So you can see your friend's artwork, and you can see your own artwork displayed in this virtual gallery. So this is the kind of thing that's going to be a silver lining. I know this is a bummer, not getting to be in school in person. It's a huge bummer. There's no denying it. But what I've been doing with my own children, and what I'm going to probably do with you over the course of these months, is remind us to look at the silver linings around the dark cloud. So the dark cloud is that we don't get to be in school together. But the silver lining is that now I'm realizing, wow, a virtual art gallery is a really cool way to share art, even I think in normal times. So when we go back to normal times, if you send me a photo of your art, I'll probably put it in my virtual art gallery. We'll keep it going because it's a really cool way to connect through art. Maybe I'll even put some of my own artwork up there. So check it out. I did put students' work from the spring. If you sent me something, I displayed it in the spring 2020 section of the art gallery. I want you to know that I ordered art supplies for kits to send home. But unfortunately, because of the situation that's going on, a lot of the materials have been delayed or back ordered, which means they're not ready to ship to Swift River School. You have my promise that as soon as they ship to the school, I'm going to be on it. I'm going to get to school, box them all up, and get them home to your homes so you can have those extra fun art supplies to use in your artwork. What else do I have to tell you? I think that's all of the housekeeping that I wanted to talk to you about. I am going to be reading you a book today, and then we're going to do a little small, like an art kind of thing we have to take care of to prepare us for the rest of the year, or for the rest of the semester. And the one thing I want to say before I read the picture book is that we are going to be checking out and looking at picture books this year together in this way. Like sometimes, not every time, but sometimes when I, teach you live, which this is the hard thing with recording. I want to rewind back and check it out. I forget, did I mention that I'm going to be visiting you through video for the first 2 weeks, but then I'm going to actually have art class with you through your Google Classrooms, where I get to visit you through the screen and we can have an actual live class together. I don't remember if I said that, but that will happen. And when it does, I will be reading picture books with you, because I think picture books are a wonderful way to examine public expressions of art. Like, these picture book artists have decided that this is how the words will look. And I think looking at that and thinking about that is a really cool window into the art world, and thinking about art making. So the first book I'm going to read to you in our adventures in virtual art class is a book called Carmela, Full of Wishes. And what I'm going to ask of you is if you could take a second and get a blank piece of paper, anything. It can be the back of some scrap paper, it can be the back of an envelope, it can be like anything, as long as it's okay. As long as, if it's an envelope, make sure you check in with your caregiver, your loved one, to make sure it's okay to draw on it. But you can use a whiteboard if you have a whiteboard. Anything. This is not like a real serious art project. This is a thinking it through kind of prompt. I'm wondering if you can draw what you think the cover of this book might look like, just from hearing the words Carmela, Full of Wishes. Pause right here. Pause me. Draw what you think it looks like, and then come back. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so you paused. You drew what you think Carmela Full of Wishes might look like. And now we're going to look at the actual book cover. Can you see? Carmela, Full of Wishes. Is this at all what your cover looked like? Did you have birds on it? Or here she is blowing on a dandelion. Do you ever do that and make wishes? Was that something that was in your drawing? It's interesting how we all interpret words differently in our minds. I'd love to see little sketches of what you drew. You'll see in that website, that Pretend Classroom, there's a Contact Emily, or Write to Emily. Click right on that and you can send me anything, anytime. I would love to see what you created. This is the end paper and page. It looks like farmers working in rows of field, but what I'm noticing is those strips, those rows, farm rows, are really just like the artist took a paintbrush and did these quick brushworks. It reminds me a little of, do you remember we did that printmaking project last year in 5th grade when we started with it, where we did the mono printing? These big kind of swaths of color remind me of that project. That was so fun. I loved that project with you all. Carmela, Full of Wishes. It's by written by Matt de la Pena, and the illustrations are Christian Robinson. And he's the artist who also did School's First Day of School. If you've ever read that book, that's him. That's his work. Carmela scootered along the uneven dirt path, watching men stoop to work with their hands, her birthday bracelets jingling and jangling. The thick greenhouse air smelled of marigolds and overturned earth and fresh manure. Carmela knew exactly what manure was, but she didn't want to think about that. Not today. And as we're reading this, we're looking at it through our artist eyes. So look at the color choices. Think about how the artist may have created their shapes and their images. That looks like, I think this particular picture book artist uses collage a lot. So I think he may have painted this background and collaged this little child onto it. Same with the truck, that looks collaged on. Today, she awoke to candles in her pancakes, and her mom sang, "Happy birthday to you," and told her, "Go on, mija, make a wish." But Carmela's wish had already come true. She was finally old enough to go with her big brother. Carmela followed as he cut back onto the street at Freedom. As he cut back onto the street at Freedom Boulevard, past the crowded bus stop and fenced-off repair shop, past the old folks' home where two hunched old women waved smiles, past the huge home improvement store where her dad used to stand around weekend mornings waiting for work. Carmela tried to make small talk with her brother as their metal cart rattled, but her brother didn't make small talk back. He didn't want her tagging along. "Too bad," she told him with her glare. Just outside the laundromat, she picked a lone dandelion growing among the concrete weeds. She pulled a breath and leaned toward the fuzzy white bulb, but just before she could blow, her brother butted in. "Did you even make a wish? You're supposed to make a wish. Everyone knows that." "Of course I made a wish," she told him. But it was a lie. Carmela didn't know. Carmela helped her brother sort colors one-handed, helped him load the washers one item at a time. While their clothes spun, her imagination turned, and each new thought ushered in by a jingle of bracelets. Her brother found the sound annoying and shot her a dirty look. "Too bad," she told him. She jingled her bracelets as she rode up to Miss Maria's vegetable stand. Imagining a machine built into her bedroom wall, one that would spit out anything she could think of, but mostly candies. This part made me think about the idea of like how part of art is making the art. But part of art, and I talk to you about this all the time, is our artist eye and our artist mind, where we think of the ideas and we're imaginative and we create all sorts of things in our brains. And then we use our materials to put that on the paper. one thing we're going to talk about this year a lot is like really paying attention to those thoughts that come into our mind that are artistic and creative and finding ways to express them. You know, sometimes we look at the sky and we see clouds and we think like, I see a bird or I see a candy store in the sky. And that, remember, I've told you this before, that's making art. You might not be making it that moment with paper or sculpture or clay, but you're making it in your mind, and that's so important. So important. So we're going to be talking about that a lot. So she's creating this, imagining a machine in her bedroom wall. She jingled her bracelets in line at the locksmith's shop, imagining her mom sleeping in one of those fancy hotel beds she spent all day making for fancy guests. So when she jingles those bracelets, it's getting her mind imagining and thinking. And I guess her mom, her job is to clean hotel rooms, and she's imagining that her mom herself gets to lay in one of those beds and be one of the people sleeping in the big fancy hotel bed. I guess she's thinking a little bit about wishes. She jingled her bracelets at the bodega down the block from their old apartment building, imagining her dad getting his papers fixed so he could finally come home. I see a hug. Looks like maybe that's the dad, so there's a wish in her heart. And I'm looking at how the artist used, I think that's paper cutting for the wishes, is this technique of paper cutting. She jingled her bracelets outside the pharmacy, eyeing the shiny new bikes in the window. Her brother stopped in his tracks. Why do you have to be so annoying? She thrummed her bracelets at him and said, "It's a free country." The only time she didn't reach for her bracelets was when her brother ducked into his friend's house. Carmela slumped down on the curb, silently imagining all the things she could turn him into. The slimy pink tail of a rat, a cockroach scurrying away from the light, a wheelbarrow full of manure left in the sun. There she is. She stared down at the dandelion in her hand. It seemed so much more important now that she knew it was a place to put her wishes. What if she made the wrong choice? Carmela tried to hop a curb on the long trip home, but her tire caught and her handlebars twisted and she went crashing to the concrete. Don't cry, don't cry. But then she saw her dandelion crushed beside the drain. She looked up at her big brother, warm tears rolling down her cheeks. He lifted up her scooter. You okay? She shook her head and pointed. My wish. He took her by the arm and led her back up the block, past the laundromat and the flea market, past the greenhouses and the smell of manure, past the overgrown park and across the train tracks. He didn't stop until they made it to an abandoned farmhouse near a cliff overlooking the sea. Close your eyes, he said. Looks like that's a path all the way down to the water. Carmela closed them. Now make your wish, he said. Carmela listened to the ocean's hum in the distance. She listened to the squawking birds. She listened to the wind whistling past her ears. Then she opened her eyes and she saw hundreds of tiny white spores lifted into the air, floating out toward the far-off surf. Looks like this is similar to the cover, the back cover. Those are all dandelion seeds. Let's go, her brother said. Don't you want to know my wish? She asked. He shook his head. If you tell me, it won't come true. She looked back one last time, then took off her bracelets and followed her brother home. The end. We don't know what Carmela wished for. I wonder if you could think about that and share with me what you think she wished for. Maybe even do a little sketch of it and show me. It could be in the style of what you thought of initially with Carmela Full of Wishes. You know, just a little sketch thinking about what she may have been wishing for. The last thing I'm going to leave you with, and you can find the link for me on my website, which is in the Google Classroom. That's this. You'll find it. It's the Swift River School Art Studio, and that's my website. But it's also where my Bitmoji classroom is. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is a request. I would like you to find. It's a scavenger hunt. 10 things you can make art with in your home, around your home, outside. Please ask caregivers and loved ones if it's okay to collect these things. Don't take something without asking. If you want, you can use like some kind of recycled jar or container to store them in. You don't have to. It can just be a little pile. I assume you have a space to make do classwork at home. Danica, wherever you're going to be working to do Danica's work. You can put these things kind of nearby so that can be accessible for when I pop in to do art with you. So we have them. It can be things like stones and little like pieces of bark or wood. It can be things like a favorite marker. Put it right in, right? And keep it there so you have it accessible. Something I have, I'm a big collector. Whenever I find like little balls of yarn or cool buttons, I kind of put them in little jars and containers so I have them to make art. So again, please don't take yarn if it's like someone's yarn that they're using to knit a sweater. You need to ask. But if the person says, sure, take a little bit of that, or yeah, I'm not using that button, you can collect them. And then when we get together in our live sessions, I'm going to ask you to share some of the things you've collected. So that's one job for this week. The last thing I'm going to do before I say goodbye is I'm going to give you a little peek of my art studio. Here's my table. You'll see I have watercolors and I collect stones and things when I go walking. I have an art cart, so I like to keep all of my materials in jars. And then I have some of my paints down here. My table's not always the most tidy, but I do try to tidy up after I make art, so I have a nice clean space to work at when I go back to my table. And I'm going to ask that of you when we do art together in this way. At the end, I'm going to give us 5 minutes, like we do in the classroom, to tidy up so you're ready for your classroom work to continue. Okay, so to follow up, let me know what you think Carmela was wishing for when she made her wish with her brother by the ocean. You can do a little sketch or you can just tell me. And scavenger hunt. 10 things that you could use to make art as we work together in this way. I miss you guys so much. So much love from me to you, and I can't wait to see your faces in the classroom in a couple of weeks. I'll see you next week with another video. Bye.